Clint Eastwood's Breakout film was a rip-off of a legendary samurai epic. A Fistful of Dollars may have been the film that turned Clint Eastwood into a star, but it's also a clear copy of the earlier released samurai epic, Yojimbo. Before A Fistful of Dollars, Eastwood had found consistent success on television in shows like Rawhide and had appeared in supporting film roles. However, A Fistful of Dollars was his first starring role in a feature film and became the actor's big break. The success of A Fistful of Dollars introduced global audiences to the spaghetti western and revitalized the genre, setting the stage for some of the genre's best films. A few years before A Fistful of Dollars, legendary director Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo became a massive success in Japan before spreading to a global audience. Both films focus on a nameless anti-hero, with the similarities between the film's plots even leading to a lawsuit from Yojimbo's production company Toho against A Fistful of Dollars director Sergio Leone. Despite the clear similarities, though, both A Fistful of Dollars and Yojimbo are fantastic movies in their own right, with an influence on cinema that carries on to this day and highlights how similar stories can still result in differing and impressive results. Yojimbo and A Fistful of Dollars are basically the same movie. Yojimbo and Fistful of Dollars have many structural and conceptual similarities, with the filmmakers behind the former even suing the latter over the issue. Both Yojimbo and Fistful of Dollars follow a nameless protagonist, a wandering anti-hero who finds himself in a town torn apart by criminal interests. In Yojimbo, the Ronin eventually known as Kuwabtake Sanjuro finds a splintered Yakuza gang, while Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name encounters two families of smugglers. Both decide to fan the flames of conflict to earn some cash, with Sanjuro and the Man with No Name using trickery to escalate the conflict. However, both anti-heroes reveal a spark of humanity when they ensure a captured woman and her family get the chance to escape the grasp of one of the gangs under the guise of joining the gang. Captured and tortured for this, the hero is saved by a local coffin maker they befriended. Returning to the town to confront the winner of the ensuing gang war, the nameless hero brings down the last criminals and simply leaves town, off on another adventure. While the Western and samurai settings shift certain elements, the similarities are blatant enough that courts had to get involved. Yojimbo successfully sued A Fistful of Dollars for infringement. Yojimbo director Akira Kurosawa had long been focused on themes of corruption and societal upheaval in post-World War II Japan, with Yojimbo serving as a purely cathartic approach to confronting the banal evil men are capable of for money and power. The film was a massive success when it was released in 1961, with Akira Kurosawa News noting that its influence was felt globally. This is especially true with Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars, which was released in Italy in 1964. However, Sergio Leone effectively remade Yojimbo with no authorization from Kurosawa, something not lost on the Yojimbo filmmaker. Kurosawa and Toho were awarded 15% of all revenue generated by A Fistful of Dollars. This proved to be a lucrative compromise, with the success of A Fistful of Dollars earning Kurosawa a small fortune. Kurosawa sent Leone a letter stating, "I have just had the chance to see your film. It is a very fine film, but it is my film. Since Japan is a signatory of the Berne Convention on the International Copyright, you must pay me." Despite arguing that other stories had influenced A Fistful of Dollars in equal measure, Leone settled the lawsuit out of court. Kurosawa and Toho were awarded 15% of all revenue generated by A Fistful of Dollars. This proved to be a lucrative compromise, with the success of A Fistful of Dollars earning Kurosawa a small fortune. Both Yojimbo and A Fistful of Dollars set off entire franchises. The success of Yojimbo and A Fistful of Dollars resulted in more films focused on both characters, proving that a duplicate can still succeed alongside the original. The success of Yojimbo led to a direct sequel in 1962's Sanjuro, which focuses on the nameless Ronin adopting a new name in a new town, working alongside a group of samurai to protect their local lord. Meanwhile, A Fistful of Dollars' success led to more films about the man with no name, cementing Eastwood as a movie star with For a Few Dollars More and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Beyond influencing A Fistful of Dollars, Yojimbo also directly inspired other westerns like Django, samurai films like Incident at Blood Pass, the fantasy film The Warrior and the Sorceress, and the Prohibition-era gangster film Last Man Standing. Both characters would become iconic within their respective genres, with the influence of both felt for decades later. Yojimbo's creative DNA impacted the Western genre as a whole, and allusions to the film can be found in everything from Star Wars to Saturday Night Live. The Man with No Name helped set off a slew of spaghetti westerns that helped revitalize the entire genre. While both films may be very similar, the success of Yojimbo and A Fistful of Dollars at the onset of greater cultural shifts in the 1960s makes them both uniquely influential and important to cinema history. Which is better, Yojimbo or A Fistful of Dollars? Both Yojimbo and A Fistful of Dollars are great movies in their own right. Both feature compelling riffs on the anti-hero archetype that don't lose of any of their inherent menace, even while revealing a moral core. Each film uses their respective setting to their advantage, exploring themes of corruption from their respective post-war directors. Both films have a gritty approach to violence, with gun battles and sword duels lacking any sophistication and tight choreography that later films would employ. The bluntness of the violence in both films is a strength, underscoring the cynical world and rules of both movies. However, Yojimbo benefits greatly from Kurosawa's unique sensibilities. This infuses the film with a greater sense of tragedy and comedy, with Toshiro Mifune playing the Ronin with an overt layer of cynical bravado that barely conceals the hero underneath. The themes of corruption are more prevalent in Yojimbo as well, which focuses on an unrelentingly cynical setting and group of characters. While the difference between two great films likely comes down to personal preference between westerns and samurai films, A Fistful of Dollars was a great start for Eastwood, while Yojimbo's strengths make it an enduring highlight of its genre.